October the 4th. Roll call.
Yes, Commissioner Mercer?
Here.
Commissioner Yates?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong.
Here. Okay, we have some presentations, and these will be given on Monday, is that correct?
Correct, sir. These are all proclamations.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so minutes and the comments from the audience. So we'll go to ordinance's second reading.
None of these have changed since first reading. These were delayed in getting back. You know, usually we have that 2-week turnaround between first reading and second readings. These were actually heard 4 weeks ago, but nothing has changed within them.
All right, that's 41, same as 42,
Same with 43.
43, and 44, and 45?
Yep.
All right. Consent agenda?
Mayor and Commissioner, or Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, I'm going to ask Deputy City Manager to go through these. I'll take care of the Chain of Lakes items.
Okay.
All right, item 10A is every year, we partner with Havendale on the Christmas parade, and that is, we have to get a permit from FDOT for the road closure, and part of that requirement from their permit is that we have commission action. So this is actually seeking that commission action for the road closure for the Havendale Christmas parade as well as the MLK parade. Staff did a good job of getting a jump on that this year, so we'll be ready to go for both of those events.
Okay, and B is Polk County Day. Y'all really moving fast.
Yep, it's coming quick.
One thing with that Polk County Day, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, we may have to amend that, pending outcome of elections in November. Certainly, we'll have one more individual that would likely travel with that, but we'll amend that as need be.
Okay. 10C?
All right, 10C, so this is an arrangement we have with the Polk County Sheriff's Office. We've had this arrangement for more than a decade, and that enables our teams to be able to access a variety of state and federal crime networks. The only real requirement with that is that we comply with those host agencies, so any of the requirements that they have, we would have to meet, which we are doing anyways. But it's been a very productive resource. It's just a good example of one of the ways that we often work together with the Sheriff's Office, both in partnership and unison.
Okay. 10D?
10D is reappointing 3 members of the Planning Commission and appointing 1 new member. The 4 seats that were up were seats 3, 5, 6, and 7. These were held by Elizabeth Davis, Wendy Venters, Colin Wells, and Rick Hemingway. Mr. Hemingway does not wish to be reappointed to another term. He served for about 9 years. And so staff reviewed applications that had been received and would like to recommend Ed Smith to fill the vacancy for seat 7. Mr. Smith has lived in the Winter Haven community for over 33 years. He's the operations manager of ASAP Prince, which he owns with his wife. He also serves as a professor at Polk State College and is a graduate of Leadership Winter Haven. He loves Winter Haven and just has a passion to serve.
Okay.
And then reappointing those other 3 members.
All right, 10E?
Who are the other 3 members that are reappointed?
Yes, 1 second here. That would be Elizabeth Davis, Wendy Venters, and Colin Wells. Moving on, 10E. So this is in planning to construct the northern portion of the Pollard Road reconstruction. There's about 0.33 acres of wetlands that will be unavoidably impacted. This is mainly the area right along the roadways where it's wet. And as a part of our requirements for our wetland permits, we are required to offset those impacts, so we have to purchase some wetland mitigation credits. So those wetland mitigation credits will remain within the Peace Creek watershed, and we will purchase those at a price of $70,950, which is budgeted for in fiscal year 23-24.
Okay. Any questions? Chain of Lakes?
So this pertains to our development or redevelopment of Chain of Lakes Park, the baseball and outdoor areas. We did an initial design and permitting award to Carter K back in 2021 and issued a task order for preliminary work in August of that year. We then came back in November of 22 for geotechnical traffic surveying and preliminary schematic design work. At this point, we are ready to move forward with the final design work that will incorporate the it actually incorporate the entire site to be designed. However, when it comes to construction, we are only advancing what we're calling Phase 2A, which will be the lighted artificial collegiate baseball fields, the associated concession, restrooms, locker rooms, and such, parking improvements, and the ingress and egress roads to serve those. We'll also have some stormwater and some general site landscaping that will go along with that. More of the passive areas will be done at a later date. So we're proposing to issue a task order for the final design and permitting of the project. We also have RADA Construction on board as our CMAR. RADA will work hand in hand with Carter K, and I see Dave Carter and Chris K are both here this evening. As they go through that design work, the CMAR sits alongside them to identify certain means and methods that can impact costs. It's basically value engineering as you go through the design process versus after the fact. The task order for the final design and permitting was prepared earlier this year. We have added a 10% contingency to accommodate fees that may have escalated due to market conditions. So our final total purchase for the design and permitting of the final project is $845,110.20. That is funded within the Chain of Lakes Park Phase 2 budget that's in our construction fund. So staff's going to recommend authorization for the city manager to execute that task order with Carter K.
Okay.
Is there a update, just where we are with this soft start date?
Certainly. So we'll have another item coming up, so if we can wait till we get
Okay.
to that piece, and then we'll go from there.
10G.
So this is an exciting item. The city's last Parks and Recreation Master Plan was completed in 2007. So that plan has served us well over the last 16 years. Many of the large recreation investments the community has made, that you guys have led a big part of, were identified in that plan. And it's common that those plans are updated every 5 to 10 years, so we are due for an update. This is also a requirement. The Parks and Recreation and Culture Department is seeking accreditation, and so having an updated master plan is a requirement of that effort. Kimley Horn is a consultant that's on our continuing service contract. They've experience preparing master plans and helping agencies reach accreditation, so staff intends to hire them to support those efforts. The cost for that's expected to be $127,080 and is budgeted for in the Parks and Recreation budget.
Okay, any questions?
I assume the Bradford property will be part of that master plan, or?
They'll look at every facility we have that's either an existing facility to establish what the level of service for those sites are and how far the reach is from accessing end users. Bradco, as we're moving forward, that will fall into that. We'll also utilize them. One of the big things that happens within master planning is really looking at where your growth patterns are and where your demand and need for future lands for parks and recreation facilities will be, and we certainly anticipate that to be the case in southeast Winter Haven, where we have a lot of growth happening. That can lead us to maybe having some development agreements with future developments that happen down there for land set-asides to establish new parks in that area as well. So it all factors in current and anticipated needs.
Okay, on this first reading,
So that is a request from KRPC Willowbrook LLC to establish the Willowbrook Community Development District. This is the property just on the east side of the Willowbrook Golf Course. That developer is looking to form a CDD to serve that new development into the future. They will bond approximately $30 million to build out the infrastructure on the neighborhood. At the end of the day, the utilities will be public, but the roads and the drainage will be maintained by the CDD. This will not impact the city's ability to bond, and if the CDD is ever terminated, the city is not required to be responsible for its assets.
okay, any questions? New business, 13A.
So this is the second part of our Chain of Lakes Park Phase 2 efforts that are part of this agenda. We have, over the past several months, been in discussion with Polk County Board of County Commissioners, Tourist Development Council, staff, and Mark Zimmerman I saw is here. So welcome, Mark. Thank you for being here this evening. You may recall that when we built the Field House and Conference Center, which opened in January of 2020, only to be quickly closed because of COVID. We did that project in a interlocal agreement for funding with Polk County. The county certainly recognizes the economic impact that a facility like that has, and therefore was willing to pledge proceeds off of the tourism bed tax towards paying down debt to build that facility. They also advanced money on the front end to help us with some of the design costs. The way that this interlocal agreement is structured for Phase 2 is very similar. The city presently has $5 million set aside in the construction fund for the Chain Lakes Park Phase 2. The county had initially made a commitment of $5 million towards the project as well. That will come to us in the form of a cash contribution. The total project for Phase 2A is anticipated to be $20 million, so there is an indebtedness that needs to occur with respect to the final $10 million. Of that, both parties will be responsible for the principal and interest related to the yield of $5 million on each side. So it's a total of $10 million yield, but we'll share in the principal and interest cost equally within that. In doing so, the beauty of these types of arrangements, and we've got a tremendous relationship with the TDC and sports marketing, the whole staff that Mark works with. When you think about how busy the field house is and the different venues we have around the county, that's as a result of their marketing and recruiting events to come in, which constantly cause the cash registers to ring throughout our community, in our restaurants, in our retail, in our hotels. And so for them to step up and be a partner financially in these projects certainly makes a lot of sense for them, and it's a great benefit for our residents. At the end of the day, we as residents end up spending about 50 cents on the dollar for these types of projects when we have such good participation from the county. The other aspect of this is the bonding of $10 million to go towards the project. And this is one of those projects that I think our CFO, CJ Scott, would agree with me. This is the ideal type of project where you want to bond funds for, because you're spreading the indebtedness out over a 20-year period. And so your residents of today are not carrying the full financial weight of that project. It will be utilized by future residents, and therefore that cost is spread out over the life of that project as well, versus taking a significant hit on just the front end first year. In exchange for the county's contribution, we offer to them a discounted rate on their booking of facilities. They still pay fees to utilize the facilities when they bring in the Russ Mat tournaments or the other baseball tournaments and similar activities that will happen at this facility. We do give them priority booking, which in reality makes a lot of sense because most of the booking they're doing anyways. They're working with these programs. Russ Mat utilizes a number of different facilities around the county, so they're coordinating that on behalf of all of them. The same goes for a lot of the other amateur athletic events. The other aspect of this is the timing. So our intent is to have this project ready for Russ Mat Baseball in the spring of 2025, which is a very aggressive schedule. That is the beauty of the CMAR approach that we're utilizing. To be able to do some design work and engage in some of the preliminary work as you go forward. Particularly site demo and general site cleanup is going to be key in this. We have a meeting scheduled with our CMAR team, our design team, various staff members, our utilities staff, and folks from Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing, I believe in 2 weeks, to really get underway on the strategy of getting demo lined up so that when we're ready to start turning dirt for putting in the new amenities there, we're not having to, go forward with the demo work, that all that's done and we've got a good site to begin the work so that we can expedite that even faster. I would expect if the commission is favorable to the interlocal agreement, it will go to the Board of County Commissioners, I think on the 17th, is that correct, Mark? For their endorsement. And following that, we will then work directly with RADA and with Dave Carter and Chris Kay to advance the demolition of the existing facilities that are there so we can get underway.
Any questions?
We're still going to utilize pieces of the old stadium throughout the project? Is that still the plan, or?
That there is nothing that we'll utilize once we get into demo. That the entire site will be wiped clean.
I thought we were going to,
Oh, you're talking about historical
Yeah, so
aspects?
like-
Yes. So capturing some of the seating and some of that we can display without. We did work, and I'll ask Andy to come to the podium if he's more inclined to answer this than I, but how do we capture the history of Chain of Lakes Park and the baseball that we've had in Winter Haven, kind of an homage to the major league players that have been here, the teams that have been here, the history of spring training baseball, so that we don't lose that. And where can we incorporate some of the seating for actual bench seating throughout the site, things like that?
Good evening, Andy Palmer. There's a concept for kind of an entry feature. We're still toying with that. That would be kind of a historical display homage to the history of the site. Some of, as City Manager referred to, some of the seating, if we can repurpose that to even be some of like the seating, like a bench, rather if we can reuse some of the seating. Some of the seating's been out for quite a while in the sun, so we have to evaluate some of that. But anything that we can capture and display, even reuse, but then also, again, that tandem effort of having that kind of welcome wall that really pays homage to the history of the site and the people and what's occurred there. So that will be part of the design process.
and since we're going with artificial on the 4 fields, is it prudent to set a reserve fund, if you will, for that property, or is that something that is more budgeted and spent at the time that you need it?
Yeah, so I think that from a capital replacement, that is one of the things that we'll need to evaluate. What is in current operations with similar facilities around the state, what are our peers seeing with the longevity of fields? 10-year, turnover on fields is kind of the industry standard for artificial turf. And Mark, you built one at North Polk, 10-year anticipated life on the fields. And is the field, that's based upon what the technology of artificial turf is today. Certainly, improvements are made constantly in that. How well it's maintained can give you some more life with that, but we do need to anticipate that whether it is a replacement of the loose material, the media that is within those fields, or the actual turf itself. One of the things that I believe is being explored with these facilities is no clay area at all within them. So even around the batter's box is an artificial turf material. So you don't have, when you're, everything from the cleats that the players are wearing to how we maintain it becomes a lot more defined and consistent, so you get a little longer life out of that. But I do think we're going to have some capital replacement program for those, just as you would, ideally you want to have that for roofs and air conditioners and so many other things. As I'm sure you've heard with the school district and some of the things that they're trying to do now, this is one of those facilities that you're going to have turnover on that.
If you don't utilize the clay, and I know we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but just a quick question, if you don't utilize that clay, do you limit yourself on who will come to those fields? So like, will there be some areas that, like, we gotta have clay there, or we're not coming?
Mark, you want to come to the podium and address that as the main recruiter here?
Yeah. Good evening, Mark Zimmerman from Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing. No, the straight answer is no. And in reality, what we're doing right now at Northeast Regional Park is we started with clay batter's boxes, and we are actually replacing them. Because what we found is as T. Michael was mentioning, the conflict between the batters wanting to wear their spikes and then not being able to run on the turf So we are going through and replacing them. And you end up with some inserts, you have replacement inserts for the batter's boxes, but that will all be part of construction. So yeah, we actually now wish we hadn't put clay in our going about that process in hindsight. But no, it does not limit it. It allows them to have a consistent shoe and have the same shoe all the time, and it actually makes it probably a little more flexible.
And of course, the big thing that we contemplated within utilizing turf, just to revisit this for a moment, the maintenance that is required on turf, yes, there is maintenance that has to occur. You don't just put it in and leave it and never touch it. There is maintenance, but it does not require the constant mowing, the constant fertilization, the constant irrigation that you have with natural grasses. It allows us to reduce or not increase our operational costs, is probably the best way to say that, is we see those things get more and more expensive and more regulated, particularly in the chemical aspect of it. It also helps us in our ability to turn fields over. So when you have these storms that come through that drop, half an inch of rain in a matter of 30 minutes, right now, Chain of Lakes fields are non-playable for probably 2 days if that happens. In this scenario, as soon as that rain clears, you're back on those fields. And we're not having to prep them or go out and reline them, redrag them, all the things that you would normally have to do with a grass field.
Will Russ Mack play there next year?
They won't play there in '24, and that was contemplated in the design. The intent is for them to be able to play there in '25, and as I said, that is a very aggressive schedule. I think my staff is probably biting their fingernails quite a bit with that. But I'm confident that we will move quickly on design, and as I said, if there's things that we can be doing on the front end, we know that we're going to have materials we have to order. We know that we have permitting that we have to do. Trying to run those things as close to parallel as we can. We've got an exceptional engineering team. We've got an exceptional CMAR. They've done these kind of projects. I feel that we should be able to get there.
Any other questions? All right. There are no other items? City attorney, city manager, deputy city clerk? City clerk? Motion to adjourn.